Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Citizens of the world, welcome to Live from the Heartland for the week of January 16th. Wherever you are, wherever you're going, we're glad that you're here, and we're here for you. We've been broadcasting this show in various places for over 20 years, and I'm glad that we're still doing it. The day this one goes up on YouTube, Spotify, which we're probably going to boycott, Apple, WLUW, Loyola, and Lumpen Radio, as well as CAN TV. We're here for you, and we've been doing it for a long time. Actually, the day it goes up is my birthday, and I turned 84. And I'm very grateful that I'm still here and kicking, and I hope to be doing this show for many years to come. If you would like to help us and support us, please contact us at livefromtheheartlandshow@gmail.com. And any support would be greatly appreciated. It's a pretty heavy time in our country and in the world. There's a lot of things going on that none of us expected. Maybe some people predicted it. Today, we're going to have an old friend who lives down in Brazil, Brian Mier. He's a reporter for TeleSur. We're going to have cousin Adam James do a sports report from LA. I think that in memoriam, I want to dedicate this show to not only Renee Nicole Good, who was killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis, but also to Rick Garcia, a longtime human rights activist working in Springfield and at City Hall here in Chicago, and did a lot of work on behalf of the gay community. Stephen Miller, that fascist who has Trump's ear, basically said that local law enforcement cannot arrest ICE people. Well, the chief of police in Philadelphia has a different opinion, and she says they will arrest ICE people. And we hope that that continues and that spreads far and wide. One little note from the Marshall Project, a nonprofit journalism about criminal justice, reported a week ago that ICE was back in Chicago, that their data reveals what happened to 1,600 people arrested during Chicago's Blitz. Most of those arrested were very swiftly shuffled to sprawling array of detention centers in 13 states, many with reports of troubling conditions. Okay, we could keep going. There's good things, there's bad things. We give you a little taste of both. One last thing to take note of is an initial review by the New York Times has found that no widespread illegal voting by migrants, puncturing a Trump claim. And I think that's good to know. Trump has made a lot of claims. Most are false. Maybe more and more people will believe them. We'll take a short musical break. We'll be right back with our first guest, the one and only Brian Mier, way down in Brazil. Be right back. To Live from the Heartland for the week of January 16th in the great year of 2026. And my next guest is no stranger to the show. We've had him when we can find him down in Brazil on a number of occasions on the show. The one and only Brian Mier, a longtime Chicago resident and now a longtime resident in Brazil. Hello, Brian.
Hey, thanks for having me, Michael. As a former Heartland Cafe busboy, it's always a pleasure to come on your show.
That's good. I wish I had a great retirement program for you, but as you know, we just scraped by for a long time. But we're glad to be here. The show continues. It used to be broadcast from the stage at the Heartland, then it went downtown. Now it's via Zoom from the great 49th Ward in the wonderful city, the greatest city in the world, Chicago, Illinois. And Brian, you are the English reporter for Brazil for TeleSur, or the news service. Tell us a little bit about that TeleSur.
Okay, TeleSur is a 24-hour cable and satellite television news network that was started in 2006 by Hugo Chavez as a socialist alternative to CNN. And it's broadcast in Spanish and English. So I'm the reporter for Brazil for TeleSur English, reporter and television news producer.
And you also have a website, Brazil Wire. Is that yours?
Well, Brazil Wire was a kind of news page that was founded by a guy named Daniel Hunt. And I became its editor, and we did a lot of work for about 7 or 8 years. And then when Lula got elected, we decided we'd been working too hard on it and put it to rest for a little while. But I wrote over 200 articles for it, including 40 just about the United States government's involvement in the Operation Car Wash corruption scandal that resulted in Lula's imprisonment. Political imprisonment, right? So it's still a useful source of information from Brazil from the period of like 2014 to 2023.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on in Brazilian politics. I know the minimal amount of energy I put into following it, that Bolsonaro had been convicted, was going to jail, was trying to get out of jail. What's the latest on the Bolsonaro guy? He's a Trump-like figure for those people who don't know, and a kind of a sycophant for Trump. Not our favorite leader, and he's no longer the leader of Brazil. Fill us in a little bit.
Well, I would say Bolsonaro is even worse than Trump. Nationally, right? Internationally, Trump is the worst. But Bolsonaro was a captain during Brazil's United States-backed neo-fascist military dictatorship, which ran from 1964 to 1985, and there's still a lot of legacy of it today. And when Brazil transitioned back to democratic rule, they gave amnesty for all of the high-ranking military officers, the generals and stuff who had been responsible for the death squads, the torture and repression of like labor union leaders and student activists and things like that. And so when Bolsonaro got elected, he appointed over 2,000 military officers to his government, including big actors from the dictatorship itself in high positions of power. So he had one guy, General Augusto Heleno, who was the aide-de-camp to the leader of the hardline, farthest right-wing faction within the dictatorship that refused to return to civilian rule. And he was actually involved in a coup attempt in 1977. One of the things he did when he was in the dictatorship was they legalized the National University Students Union after outlawing it for 13 years and killing some of its leaders, torturing dozens of its leaders and whatnot. They legalized it. And so they organized their first meeting in 13 years, the National Congress, and he went there with his troops and arrested everybody anyway. 800 people, right? So he was in charge of 17 government agencies, including intelligence, and he was also the UN Minister director in Haiti during the Cité Soleil massacre in 2004, when like 100 people were killed in Cité Soleil shantytown, and he was never put on trial for that either. Minister was the UN peacekeeping forces. He was the military commander. So luckily he was arrested too. He's already been released to house arrest though, because his doctors say he's got Alzheimer's now. He's like 80. So Bolsonaro was arrested along with several generals who had been involved in the dictatorship. His vice presidential candidate, General Walter Braga Neto, was also a big player during the dictatorship. He was arrested. He's in a military jail right now. And Bolsonaro is being held in a privileged special jail cell in the federal police headquarters. He's got his own room. It's got a TV, but no internet access, private bathroom. A little bit better. It looks kind of like a Motel 6 hotel room or something, like a cheap hotel. But in terms of prison, that's pretty good by Brazilian standards. And there, as you mentioned, there's a move to get him back out of jail.
Can you tell us a little bit about Brazilian politics today? Where are things at? I know we were talking about Bolsonaro, the fascist, and we are happy that Lula is your president. And where is Brazil at on President Trump and the United States?
Okay, well, first of all, although Jair Bolsonaro is in jail, his allies are a strong presence in Congress. The left only has 24% of the seats in Congress. There's 29 parties, 16 are represented in Congress. And so despite all these challenges of not having control of Congress and Senate, Lula has very cleverly managed to push through a lot of very good policies, and this has resulted in 17 million people entering the middle class since he took office. These include annual minimum salary adjustments, raises above inflation level, and strengthening of other social programs and things like that. So what we're dealing with now is that Bolsonaro is in jail. 2026 is an election year. The elections are going to be held in October. And Bolsonaro has designated his son Flavio, who's a senator, also far right, obviously, closely connected to Steve Bannon and Trump and all those people up there, to run in his place. And the polls show that if he runs, it'll go to a second round knockout election. The first round usually has about 10 candidates. They don't have separate primaries by party. It's a totally different system. But it's going to be pretty close. Lula's about 9 points ahead in the polls now, but these far-right candidates, they're very, they have the social media companies on their sides, obviously, as we see with Trump being supported by Elon Musk and Zuckerberg. And these social media companies have a way of really manipulating things through algorithms and all of this crap during the last 2 weeks before the election. In the 2022 elections, Bolsonaro was losing by 6 points 2 weeks before the election, and he ended up only losing by about half a point. So a 9-point lead isn't as comfortable as it looks. So that's the battle on the local front. On the international front, there's this back and forth with Trump, who initially, as you guys probably remember from your coffee prices, imposed a bunch of import tariffs on Brazil, the highest in the world, saying that he'd only lower the tariffs if Lula got Bolsonaro or kept Bolsonaro from going to jail. And so the government just ignored it. Said, of course, we'd like you to remove the tariffs, but we're not going to make exceptions to the rule of law. I'm not going to get involved in the middle of an ongoing court case. I'm not a dictator. And during the time of the tariffs, Brazil's foreign trade actually increased significantly. It opened a bunch of new markets. And in 2025, trade with China hit an all-time high, $171 billion of trade with China. And who got hurt mostly were U.S. consumers. So Lula finally met with Trump, and Lula's a very good negotiator because he came up as a union leader during the dictatorship, having to negotiate with fascist government officials and big business leaders, And he met Lula, and he met Trump, and apparently kind of just charmed Trump. Then Trump ended up saying, "No, I like this guy. He's okay."
It's like with Mondami, for the new mayor of New York.
A similar situation. And so he ended up just getting rid of the tariffs anyway. But the damage to U.S. consumers is still going to be felt because the way that the coffee cycle works I'm using coffee as an example, but there was beef, there was a lot of different commodities. The way the coffee cycle works, the prices were rising anyway when he imposed the tariffs because there was a drought, a massive climate change drought that affected the harvest in 2024. And so there's this lag time between when the tariffs were put in and when consumers are going to feel the effects. And so that should still be, the prices for coffee in the US should continue to go up for a couple months after the tariffs have ended, which was like a month and a half ago. So I can just only imagine how that pisses off people in the US when the tariffs were in place. Like when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you want is your cup of coffee, and you're like, damn, how much did I pay for this? You know? It was just a dumb move on Trump.
I try to figure that out. I drink a good amount of coffee, and my wife goes to the store, so I don't know what even the current price is. Let me ask you another question, though, that follows up from that. What about Brazil and world trade? There's an outfit called BRICS, which would be Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And it's it's up and coming nations, trade. How does that fit up against the United States and the loss of trade with the United States and trading with other countries?
Well, BRICS has been in place for over 15 years now. And a bunch of other countries have joined BRICS. So Iran is in BRICS, Ethiopia is in BRICS, Indonesia is trying to join, Turkey wants to join, United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have joined, and it's a commerce, it's like a commercial club almost, right? And so what annoys the U.S. the most is they're developing ways. First of all, they started their own development bank, the New Development Bank, often called the BRICS Bank. And it operates like the World Bank, except unlike the World Bank, it doesn't impose neoliberal structural adjustments on countries it's lending money to. The World Bank and the IMF drove dozens of countries in the global South into incredible poverty in the 1980s and 1990s by forcing them to privatize things like their public health system, privatize their education system. One result of IMF meddling was they charge tuition in public schools in South Africa now. And if your parents don't make the payment for your third grade class, that you're pulled out of school until they pay what they owe. And this is even for poor people and stuff. This was because of the IMF. And when the BRICS Bank lends money to countries in the global South for development projects, it says all we care about is that you pay us back. You don't have to change anything in your government or your laws to get this money. So it's a threat to the World Bank. And the idea that they're working on different ways to do trade among themselves without using the dollar is a big threat to the United States, to the dollar. So that's the thing that most bothers Trump. And obviously, it's always bothered the United States when Russia and China start working together. So that, regardless of who's in power, the US governments are always trying to create this kind of rift between China and Russia. And the BRICS strengthens their relationship. And so that's annoying to the Trump administration as well, which is why you see the US will alternately cozy up to Russia and use really aggressive language towards China, or they'll be very aggressive towards Russia and cozy up to China. For the last couple of decades, it seems like the Republicans have been pro-Russia, anti-China more than the Democrats. The Democrats have been more pro-China, anti-Russia. But they're never that favorable of either country. So I think that's the big threat. And then the threat to have other countries involved, it's an alternative to the G7. It's an alternative to NATO and stuff like that. And it's just a threat to Western European and US hegemony in general, which I think is fine.
Brian Mier, let me ask you about Venezuela. As you know, it's been heavy in the news up here. Trump invaded Venezuela, bombed a lot of targets. I noticed that Brazil has sent 40 tons of medical aid to Venezuela after the attack on its health depot. which we have never heard about up here. I got this from other newspapers out of the country. And talk a little bit about Brazil's relationship to Venezuela and what you think the meaning of the Venezuela, the capture of Maduro, hauling him out of the country along with his wife, what this all means and where it's going.
Well, traditionally, the Brazilian Workers' Party has always had a very close relationship with the Bolivarist movement founded by Hugo Chavez and the people of Venezuela. Lula and his administration got in a fight with Maduro in 2024 after the elections. I was there covering the elections. The Venezuelan government suffered a massive cyber attack during those elections, and it screwed up the result tallying. But it was very clear that Maduro mobilized a lot more people to the streets than the opposition did. The idea that the opposition won by 70% is just total disinformation. It looks like Maduro won by 3 or 4%, but Brazil was making these demands on being able to audit the results. The Venezuelan Supreme Court audited the results, and they certified, including its 2 justices that are part of the opposition party, that Maduro was the legitimate winner. But this caused some friction between Brazil and Venezuela. Since the attack, since the United States started getting more aggressive towards Venezuela, the 2 countries have grown closer together. And this 40 tons, basically the U.S. bombed Venezuela's largest hemodialysis center and renal medication distribution warehouse that was meeting the needs for 16,000 dialysis patients across the country. So basically, just like in 2019, when Trump blocked the entry of insulin into the country of Venezuela and 40,000 diabetics died, this is a sadistic move to kill everyone who's on dialysis, basically, in the country. It's like a terror move. So Brazil initially pledged 100 tons of dialysis equipment and medications. 40 tons already arrived. That's what you saw in the news. But 2 days ago, the health ministry upped it to 300 tons. So there's all these planes going into Venezuela right now. As far as the government goes, the U.S., in typical individualist, capitalist mentality, has been treating the Venezuelan people's movement of the Bolivarian Revolution as if it were a police department or something. Like all you have to do is get rid of the boss, and then everything will fall into place. But it's like a bottoms-up movement, so it doesn't really matter that Maduro's been removed from power. Delcy Rodriguez, who's the vice president, she's really beloved by millions of people in Venezuela, and the CIA and other intel agencies were clearly trying to portray her as if she had betrayed Maduro. First, they sent false rumors that she was hiding in Russia, which was bullshit. Then it's like, oh, she sold out Maduro, which is also bullshit because she refused.
NPR carried that. I heard someone telling me NPR said she was the one that told Trump's troops where he was, where Maduro was sleeping.
No, it's ridiculous because the same time they tried to argue that someone betrayed Maduro, they were also bragging about how they'd been tracking every step he made for the last 3 months, how the CIA had been like digitally surveilling him. So make up your minds. Also, 100 people were killed in the attack, including 45 bodyguards. So it wasn't like he just got captured in his sleep. They went in there shooting. And but anyway, she refused to accept the office of president. She said, I'll be the interim president. The real president is Nicolas Maduro. She's spoken to Nicolas Maduro's communicated with her. And it's important to know who she is. Her father is one of the heroes of the Venezuelan left. He's the founder of the Socialist League in the 1970s. And he was tortured to death by CIA operatives and Venezuelan intelligence in 1976. Her and her brother, who's president of Congress, are very close to the Maduro family, especially Maduro's children. It was Maduro's son who nominated Jorge Rodriguez to be the president, the leader of Congress. And they're very inner circle. And so in a way, now I see people in the Democratic Party and Democratic affiliated media trying to say that, oh, well, Trump didn't finish the job. He has to put Maria Corina Machado in the Venezuelan opposition in power. He can't just leave the socialists running the country. Maria Corina Machado has always been very close to Trump. The white Venezuelan middle-class community in Miami are far-right reactionaries, very closely tied to the Cubans and people like Marco Rubio. And her father was an oil billionaire, and she's a close friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. And she doesn't have that much base support in Venezuela. Sure, I mean, the country's divided like the United States, but the far right in Venezuela is really only about 30% of the country. It's not like the US where it's 50-50. So she doesn't have, if they tried to put her in, there'd have to be an invasion. If they had invaded Venezuela, for the last 25 years, the Pentagon has been conducting war game exercises on their supercomputers and simulating wars with Venezuela. And they've lost every time because it would be another Vietnam. Only in Vietnam, the U.S. had access through South Vietnam. South Vietnam had an army.
I'm going to take a short musical break or station ID, depending on where you're getting live from the Heartland, for the week of January 16th. And we'll be right back for a few more minutes with Brian Mier, way down south in Brazil.
Brazil, where hearts were entertaining June. We stood beneath an amber moon and softly murmured, someday soon. We kissed and clung together then. Tomorrow was another day. The morning found me miles away, with still a million things to say. Now, when twilight dims the sky above, recalling of our love.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of January 16th. I'm your host, Michael James, and we're talking with our friend Brian Mier, a longtime Chicagoan and now a longer-time Brazilian, way down south in Brazil. And we've been talking about Bolsonaro, Lula, Trump, Venezuela. And I would like to, in the few minutes we have left, Brian, if you could talk a little bit about, there's some speculation that a lot of this activity on the part of the U.S. with Venezuela is to really break the back of Cuba, who relies on Venezuelan oil. If you could give us a little bit of info on your sense of that situation, it would be great.
Well, just look at Marco Rubio, right? Marco Rubio. He's one of these Gizanos, the son of... It's so funny to see these super far right-wing white Cubans who say they're sons of Cuban exiles, and then you find out it was Batista who exiled their parents. Ted Cruz is the same way.
They left a few years before.
Yeah, they weren't. His family wasn't kicked out of Cuba by Castro. They fled Batista. So it's just pure opportunism to pretend that your family suffered because of Castro when they moved into Miami long before Castro took power. He's wanted to try and destroy Cuba, like the entire Cuban, not the entire, but let's say 85% of the Cuban community in Florida has wanted to depose Castro since Castro took office. So he's already announced that Cuba's next. But does the U.S. really have enough power to start wars everywhere at the same time? Because now we see they're going towards Iran. They've claimed a big symbolic victory in Venezuela, removing Maduro, but the Socialist Party is still running the country. The best thing for them would be to start exporting more oil to the U.S. Chevron never left Venezuela. Chevron's always been exporting oil. So will they be able to do it? I don't know. Let's see how bogged down the Trump administration starts getting in these other places, trying to start wars and coups with.
Well, Brian, we're going to keep in touch with you so you can keep us up. But before we go, I'd like to go a little bit lighter. And, if you could share a little bit about some highlights of Brazilian culture and Brazilian life. I know they have a great soccer team. I don't know if I've seen any Brazilian movies other than Black Orpheus, which was one of the most beautiful movies I ever saw. Fill us in a little bit.
Well, Michael, there's a Brazil. First of all, I live in Recife. It's Brazil's fourth largest city, but it's had an alternative underground film scene for about 25 years. And the low budget movies they make here just keep getting better and better. And one of them, called The Secret Agent, it just won the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Film. And its actor, Wagner Moura, who a lot of people remember from Narcos, he played Pablo Escobar in Narcos. He won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor. And it's been nominated for the Oscars. They're going to be at the Oscars. And it's a great film. It's got some some very creative, dreamlike sequences, but it's about the dictatorship. But it makes connections between the dictatorship in the 70s and what's happening today in countries like the United States and what was happening when Bolsonaro was president in Brazil. So it's very current. And I think the parallels to Trump are what's going to make the people in the Academy want to vote for it. I have a feeling it's going to get at least one Oscar. And, my mom saw it in the U.S. It's showing in the U.S. It's called The Secret Agent. And I just recommend you see it as soon as possible. It's fantastic.
What about Brazilian soccer? How does it look for them coming up with the World Cup, et cetera?
I don't have very many high hopes. Brazilian soccer, it's the best country in the world for soccer. It has been for a long time. But for the last 25 years, the European teams have been poaching players when they're younger and younger. So they bring players over to Europe when they're 15, 16 years old, and they forget how to play with the Brazilian style. So now the Brazilian national team, it looks like a bunch of the tactics and the style looks like a bunch of Europeans playing, which means the creativity, which is a strong point of Brazilian soccer, is kind of on the back burner. I think they're going to do okay, but I don't predict they're going to win it this time around in the World Cup. And also, so weird to have a World Cup in the U.S. right now while ICE is deporting people. Would anyone from a foreign country want to go see the World Cup when customs agents are demanding to be able to look through your smartphone and check your social media posts on entry to the United States? If I was not a U.S. citizen, I wouldn't go.
Now Trump, there are certain countries they aren't going to let people in. So they're scrambling,
including Brazil. So what? They shouldn't be allowed to have the cup in the United States this year. I mean, the cup's going to be held in Mexico, the U.S., and Canada. They should just remove the U.S. from it. Except FIFA are massive suck-ups to Donald Trump. Yeah. They gave him that peace award, which is ridiculous.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. So let me ask you one more thing. Expound upon it as much as you like. Any message you have for the people of Brazil, the people of the United States, the people of the world, and what people should be watching for, hoping for, and acting for. How's that?
I think people in the United States should know that everyone in the world is watching how Americans are fighting back against Trump's Gestapo tactics on his own people, like ICE and other things. And people are paying attention.
Well, with that, we're in sync on that, brother. I don't know if I'll ever get to Brazil or not, but it would be a good time to come down there in the winter when it's 90 degrees and it's snowing outside here. If people want to get a hold of you, tell us how we can do that, and tell us how people can find TeleSur so they can look at it on their computer.
Well, TeleSur broadcasts its stream on YouTube. You can watch it live on YouTube. TeleSur English and TeleSur Spanish. TeleSur Spanish is a much bigger network if you speak Spanish, but they're both on YouTube. My Twitter, or X, I should say, is Brian M. TeleSur. And I have a blog on Substack called D-Link in Brazil.
What is that again? D-Link?
D Lincoln Brazil. D-Lincoln Brazil.
I got it. All right.
Lincoln is a Marxist concept created by Samir Amin, the great Egyptian Marxist political economist.
Well, I got a lot to learn from you, young fella, and I really appreciate you joining us and talking. We're thousands and thousands of miles away. I love how the technology at least lets us do this and bring some stuff that's going on to light. And we'll have you back. Everybody else, stay tuned, take a short musical break, and we'll be back. And we're going to continue our little discussion of ports with a little bit of politics mixed in. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial. We'll be right back.
Touch your mother, she might be insane. Your father must have been a volter that put me in skates. People got no gray shades.
Okay, citizens of the world, welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of January 16th. And it's always a pleasure to talk with my cousin Adam, and he does some really interesting sports reporting for us. Adam is a trainer, actor. He played football at Northwestern years back, and we usually talk sports once a month on this show. But today, since we already talked a little bit about Brazilian soccer and the World Cup and travel arrangements with our last guest, Brian Mier, down in Brazil, Adam's going to talk today about health and fitness and a regimen you all might want to follow. I think that's it. So what do you got, Adam? And hello to you.
Well, hello, everybody. It's great to be here on Live from the Heartland. It's always great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Yes, I've often been on the show, and my usual topic is sports. But as I've often said when I've given my sports report, what's even more fun than watching sports is playing sports. And I strongly encourage people to get out there and get involved. Sports is wonderful because you're connecting with other people, but you're also connecting with yourself. You're having health activities. Now, speaking of health and fitness, that's one of the things that I want to roll into because it's the new year and a lot of people have made a commitment, a resolution to get healthier and fitter. And truthfully, if we're going to be people who are going to, overcome the difficult obstacles we have before us, we have to be fit. We have to be healthy so that we can overcome and deal with the challenges that lie before us. So let us start by covering what's called the 5 facets of fitness. Now, this is something that the National College of Exercise Professionals has created because when you think about fitness, that's a pretty big topic. There's a lot of things to think about and do. So NCEP, the National College of Exercise Professionals, has come up with these 5 key things that everybody should be doing and can be doing. So let's start with the very first thing that's so important for health, and that's mind, attitude. It's actually the one thing that most people neglect when it comes to health and fitness. So attitude training can be something as simple as staying positive, interacting with other positive people, listening to music, going to art events so that you can, get connected. But there's actually also mind exercises you can do to help train your mind, kind of like physical exercises, like running and lifting weights will train your body. So the first one, many of you might already be doing, is meditation. Mike, do you meditate?
I don't think officially. I never really. I do try to clear my mind and breathe deeply and, periodically.
I love what you just said, because that's one of the things that I teach people is for those people who are uncomfortable with meditating or say, I don't really meditate. If you practice deep breathing with clearing of the mind, that is meditation.
I meditate
with good posture. Always try to, sit up straight, really good posture, take deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, and breathe from your abdominal area, your diaphragm breathing. Another exercise of the mind is affirmations, short, powerful statements that you say that affirm or make strong in your subconscious mind certain thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes. Visualization is another mind training technique. And then anchoring. I won't go into great detail on anchoring, but that's how you can create a connection between a physical gesture and a power word and an emotional state, that Zen zone, that flow state. Athletes actually do this all the time. When the sports team comes out and they all put their hands in the huddle and they all say, win on three, 1, 2, 3, win. It builds this excitement inside of them. And that hand gesture touch, and we all say it together, anchors or connects you emotionally to that. Anyway, attitude training is super important. The other thing that's super important for good health is nutrition. So nutrition is a tricky one because there's a lot of different thoughts and beliefs on nutrition. But
these days.
Exactly. And at NCEP, we know that there's a lot of confusion. We try to cut through the confusion by having a very clear message on 5 little things that everybody can be doing for better nutritional health. The very first thing is to eat smaller amounts. Most people are eating too much. Portion control is critical. We believe in small meals throughout the day to maintain a higher level of activity in your body. It's better for your digestive system. Small meals throughout the day. The other thing that we advocate is drinking lots of water, staying hydrated. Many people just are not. Hey, there you go. I love it. I got one over here too. I won't tell you what label it is, so I'm not giving
my water every day.
I shouldn't be drinking out of plastic too. But anyway, another one that we advocate for is avoiding refined and processed foods. Really try to eat whole, natural foods, organic foods. Another thing to do is eat good, healthy fats. And then the 5th thing that we advocate is proper supplementation. And for us, proper supplementation at the National College of Exercise Professionals is almost no supplements. Most supplements are bogus. They don't really do what the label says that they're doing. And if you eat really good, healthy food, you're going to get the nutrition you need. Right on. All right. So those 2 are the ones that a lot of people think about, maybe not do as much as we can. But let's get into the physical fitness conditioning training. These are the things that people can be doing. One aspect of fitness that many people don't do enough of is range of motion training, or stretching, as it's more commonly known. Do you do a regular stretching routine? I know you do, right, Michael?
I do.
Massage.
I'm in the pool 4 days a week for a half hour, running in the deep end, manipulating my body, twisting and turning in the water.
Yes.
And then I'm always stretching and ironing my glutes on the corner of a table.
Love it.
And I'm still having a hard time walking in my 84th year.
As we get older, our body's going to show signs of things, and we have to be like the mechanic. Get in the garage and work on that car, get it working smooth. And I applaud what you're doing. Massage is part of flexibility. Massage is part of what makes a body flexible and supple. So doing that is so important. Not everybody can afford to go get a massage every day, but we can afford to do a massage to ourselves every day. There's a technique called self-myofascial release, sometimes known as foam rolling. I think you have one of these, don't you, Mike? One of these big old foam rolls?
You bet. I got one, and I sit on it a lot and roll around on it.
So
what is that term? Self-fascial what?
Self-myofascial release.
Good.
The myofascial is the casing around your muscle tissue that develops adhesions when we exercise with vigorousness. And so you need to, work out those knots. Trigger point massage therapy, deep tissue massage therapy. This is where it all is focused. But we can do this to ourselves a little bit. You have to be careful. But massage is really good for us. Another thing about flexibility, of course, is stretching. And people should take it seriously. You should make stretching a part of your health and fitness routine. One of the key things is to know how to stretch properly. And part of that is to stretch with movement before you exercise. It's called active dynamic stretching. The more traditional idea of stretching, where you sit on the ground and you spread your legs, you try to touch your toe, that kind of thing is fine at the end of a workout. That's called static, passive stretching. The problem is a lot of people have done that type of stretching aggressively and before their workouts, often leading to injuries. And so some people, just don't do stretching enough. Anyway, let's move to the most important one. Well, one of my favorites anyway, and that's weightlifting, resistance training. So it is an absolute fact. People should lift weights. Lifting weights is going to make your body respond and get stronger. I highly recommend people get involved with weight training. If you are not currently actively doing weight training, get into it. Find somebody who knows what they're doing. Ask questions, learn about it. It doesn't take a lot of money. You can go online, watch videos, read articles and books. If you can afford to get a personal trainer, I highly recommend it, even for just a few sessions, because getting a good foundation, learning proper technique and form is so critical. Now, here's, I'm going to get a little crazy on you a little bit. Well, a little cutting edge and dynamic. And that is, we at NCEP are advocates of what's called functional training. We don't believe in sitting on machines. When you think about most weight rooms, they're filled with machines. See, part of our philosophy is we need to help people get better posture. And most people sit at their job. And most people sit when they go home. And most people, when they go from job to home, they sit. And so the last thing they should do when they exercise is sit down. We need to stand and move and use our own body. Machines take away our own internal efforts. The core strength is turned off on almost every machine you get on. So what we advise is that you do the functional movements of life. The human body has 7 functional movements. That's it. There's nothing else. Every exercise you do in a weight room is one of those or a combination of them. So let's cover those 7 functional movements. Number 1 is squat. People should do squats. Super important exercise, and do them well and properly. Before you add weight, you should be able to go as low as possible. And theoretically, you should be able to go all the way down. Also, another functional movement, pulling and pushing. There's also bend and twist. And then again, for the lower body, lunge and gait, G-A-I-T, walking. If you do it fast, it's running. Those movements are fitness. And what we advise at NCEP is that you do those movements. Don't think like I'm going to do my legs and my back and my arms. Think I'm going to do squats and pulls and pushes and bends and twists and lunges. And I'm going to do some walking, some gait work today. Good stuff, man. Hey, let's move into one more. I got one more for you on the components or facets of fitness. And that's cardiovascular training. You know, cardiovascular training is often neglected, and it's often not done well for those who do it. The definition of cardiovascular training is elevating your heart rate into a heart rate zone and keeping it there, maintaining it in that zone for a period of time. Depending on what the goal is, that range will differ for everybody. Everybody's a little different, your age and your conditioning. But the key for cardiovascular training is being heart rate zone aware, getting in there and staying in there. By the way, one of the things that many people make a big mistake on when it comes to cardio is doing them for long sessions. Now, unless you're training to run a marathon, cardiovascular exercise should be about 20 minutes, 30 at the most. You get in that zone, you keep it there, you condition your heart, you get that benefit. When I see somebody in a cardio room on a treadmill or an elliptical and they've been there for an hour, and I walk up to them and I say, why are you doing that? Unless they say to me, I'm training for a triathlon or I'm training for a marathon, I can pretty much guarantee you they're going to say, I want to lose weight. And the problem with that is cardiovascular exercise is not the panacea of weight loss. The real key is nutrition. It's what you eat combined with the activities that you do. So getting back to that nutrition component, that's really where it starts. The attitude, of course, that's the number one thing. And then what you put in your mouth. You know, I had a boxing coach and he's a really great guy. And he used to say to me, you know, the number one exercise to lose weight? The number one exercise to lose weight is the push away. You got to push yourself away from the table.
I've heard that before. I like it, though.
Yes. Now, how about you, Mike? What do you got going on for your exercise program? I know you shared earlier you're hitting the pool and the why.
Well, that's basically what I do. Besides stretching, laying on the floor, twisting, bending, I do a lot of that. I do 4 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes a day less, but a half hour in the deep end of the pool, just kind of running. And then I do like crunches.
Yes.
In the 50 crunches, I do like kind of jumping jacks in the deep water. And I do on my stomach or underwater, but facing down, my legs up in the back.
Very good.
And there's something out of alignment or something that's been causing me for the last couple of years, difficulty in my walking. But, in the pool, it's fine. I do have I have 2 shoulders that are both really compromised. And one I'm probably going to operate on. So I'm figuring out how I get my shoulder fixed and then I'll probably have a meniscus I need worked on. But the pool is a wonderful place to be, I'll tell you. And it takes a lot of pressure off. And there's also nice people in the pool. And we can talk about music and politics as we're splashing around.
And that's what I wanted to come back to, is just the value of that interconnection with other people. That's what's so great about fitness. Being part of a health club or a fitness club like the YMCA is seeing other people, because fitness and health is about an interconnection as well. And so that is why I want to bring it all back to sports, because sports is what I'm often here talking about. But as I've often said, as much fun it is to watch sports, it's so great to get involved. So I just want to kind of finish up by just talking for a moment about how people can get engaged, get involved with sports in your community. So number one is, there's some great activities out there for whatever your age is. Obviously, there's tons of options for youth. For an older citizen, we've got some great options. Pickleball has increasingly become popular. Have you played pickleball, Michael?
I played it once and pulled my hamstring. That was at my 50th high school reunion. And I haven't done it yet, but when I'm walking up on the track at the McGaw in Evanston, there's a lot of pickleball down on the 2 basketball courts.
Very cool.
Early morning. There's a lot of people playing it. They're kind of older types too.
It's a lot of fun. And it's something that even older people can play. You don't have to run as much as you do with tennis. Pick up basketball. Getting in the pool, that's such a great activity. And there are sports things there. You can join swim leagues and other sport activities at the pool. For some people, though, they just can't physically do these things. So there's ways that you can get involved beyond playing the sport. You can, volunteer to be a manager and to do other activities around the sports teams. It's a great way to get involved with the community. So,
well, this is good, Adam.
I'm so glad we got to cover this. And so we've talked about the new year. It is something that a lot of people start thinking about, health and fitness. And this is the last thing I want to share in all this, is that it's a journey. Don't beat yourself up when you're on a certain level of the path, when you're at a certain spot on the mountain. Everybody climbs the mountain, and you get there by taking a single step. Each step takes you to that next level, next stage. And sometimes the step is down, and that's okay too. So you have a better pathway to the top. So I encourage everybody to, get engaged, get involved with health and fitness, and have fun, keep a positive attitude, and try to incorporate those 5 facets of fitness: attitude training, nutrition, flexibility training, resistance weight, got to do your weightlifting, and then do your cardiovascular training. For more information about all this, if you'd like, people can check out ncepfitness.com or contact me. RainbowWarriorMartialArts.com has all my contact information. Adam James from Rainbow Warrior Martial Arts and the National College of Exercise Professionals.
You're a hell of a cousin. Thanks a lot. And everybody else, I want to thank you for tuning in to Live from the Heartland. As I said at the outset of the show, this is the show for the week of January 16th. January 16th happens to be my birthday. I was born in New York City in 1942. We always are looking for people who help support the show. So if anyone's really excited, maybe send $84 to us. Let us know. You can reach us at Live from the Heartland Show at gmail.com. And I'm going to tell you my Venmo is at Michael, capital M, James, capital J, 212, at Michael James 212. Send the money. We'd be greatly appreciative. And if you can't do it, we still love that you tune in, because there's a lot to learn and know about, and we try to bring some of it to you. Okay, all power to the people. Do good in the world. The world needs all the good that you do.
You can. Over the mountain.
Thank you for watching the Live from the Heartland Show.
You got a dream
New
of
episodes
waiting.
air every Friday beginning at 9 a.m. Central Time.
It may
Episodes
not
air
come
each following Thursday on
easy,
Can
but
TV,
you know
9
you've
p.m.
got a friend.
Sweet Home Chicago.
I'll
on
be
Channel
by your
21,
side the
or
entire
streaming
ride.
everywhere
Just
else
let me
at
hear you say
cantv.org.
amen. Are you doing?
Audio episodes go live on WLUW
Are you
Saturday
doing
9
the
a.m.
best you
on the
can?
left end of your dial at 88.7 FM or streaming
Tell me,
everywhere
are you
worldwide
doing?
at WLUW.org.
Are you doing the best you
They're
can?
available on Apple and Spotify podcasts by looking up Live from the Heartland on either platform, and are also broadcast on Lumpen Radio Friday at 9 a.m. on 105.5 FM and streaming at
Too
lumpenradio.com.
done. Est-ce que
I'm
tu
Michael
donnes
James, and I'm glad to have
le
been your
meilleur
host.
de toi-même?
Until next time,
Si tu
remember,
l'aimes.
do do good in the world because the world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we do together. All power to the people. Over and out.
Come to limb. Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing